Kill the Stigma podcast is not affiliated with any company, group, or entity. There are currently no approved uses for kratom by the FDA. Anything heard here is solely for educational purposes and should not be taken as medical advice. We will be going into detailed accounts of addiction that might be disturbing to some viewers. Therefore, viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Kill the Stigma podcast. I am your host once again, Evan Garcia, and a man who just got dropped off the short bus, Ivan Garcia, my little big brother. Say what's up, Ivan.
What's going on, people?
And today we have our special guest is Senor Peter Robb,
How you doing?
Mr. Two First Names. So I want to start off again by saying that viewer discretion is advised, as we will be going into detailed accounts of addiction. I want everybody to just keep that in mind because we're about to dive into some real stuff today. It's going to be a real conversation today.
Pete, let's go off with our basic information. Where are you from? What's your name? How old are you? Let's get started with that.
Well, as you've already said, my name is Pete Robb. 33, originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, but currently live in the Springs of Colorado.
Go Eagles.
The Springs of Colorado.
Yeah. Eagles coming out of the NFC. What was your early childhood like? What was your upbringing like?
My early childhood was pretty typical for America, I think. It wasn't, my mom raised 4 kids by herself. My dad was there up until I was 5, but, he was a alcoholic, abusive man. So kind of, my mom eventually had enough, and she spent the better part of my childhood alone. She did remarry a couple times, but they didn't work out.
So did you not have much of a relationship after he left?
I mean, there was more of a separation because of what he did. My mom didn't want us, being around that. He was abusive, so it was trying to keep us safe. So on her discretion, she said no. We didn't really see him again until we were probably 9.
And so in that time, he said that she had kind of gotten with some new people. They were
well,
kinda
no,
coming and going,
she didn't remarry until I was 10.
Okay.
That guy only lasted 1 year, and then a few years after that, she remarried my stepfather, Anthony, who she was with for many years until he passed away.
Did your mom have any substance abuse issues or anything like that?
No, she didn't. She
Straight
was
shooter?
She was born in 55, so she grew up in the 60s and 70s. She was a hippie. She tried cannabis back in the day, but it was the basic, swag weed from New York.
Mexican brick pack.
Yeah, she grew up in the Elmira,
Stems
New
and
York
seeds.
area, so it was near Woodstock, but not at Woodstock, but in
whoa,
that general
dope,
area. Yeah.
dope.
Right. So you say that your upbringing was pretty typical, and I think part of being typical is having some good parts and having some negative parts for sure. Where did your addiction history, maybe addiction behaviors, when did you start to notice that?
Well, I mean, early it started on, I have a 4-year older sister and a 1-year older brother, and I just did what most kids do and want to take after their siblings. They want to follow in their footsteps. And
I would assume that they were smoking.
Courtney, my sister, she was smoking weed. My brother Jordan was too. But, I just wanted to be like them. So, instead of going outside the house and being, going and finding weed because I had no idea what I was doing, I went to my sister Courtney.
It was right there, yeah.
I went to her room. She lived in the basement at the time. And she was like, do you really want to smoke? And I was like, yeah. So she packed a bowl, and I went into her closet, and I hit it, and I passed out.
Oh, man.
Yeah, first time, hit it, passed out.
You didn't even get to eat some M&Ms?
No, I mean, I woke up high. That was the best part. It's most time people smoke the first time, they don't get high. But I hit it, passed out, woke up, and I was like...
That's a myth.
What? And I was hungry, so I went to the kitchen, ate some food. And then from that day on, I just smoked weed up until 13 when I started taking pills.
Regularly smoking weed too?
As much as a person who first starts can,
Right,
a bowl
right.
here and there, nothing really crazy, maybe 2 or 3 bowls a week.
Right.
Any chance you got, basically.
Yeah, whenever they would let me hit the bowl.
Did you, at this point at all, experiment with alcohol?
Nope.
And would you think that is because of your father?
Yeah, I mean, just the smell of alcohol alone didn't make me feel good. It brought up weird memories, and I just didn't really like it. So it took me until I was 16, 17 to have peer pressure. Friends be like, yo, let's drink. I'm like, all right, cool, Mad Dog 2020. One of the worst nights of my life.
Bro,
yeah.
Bro, that's like liquid kerosene. I don't even understand it. Dude, I used to drink that.
They would sell it to us.
Dude,
at the liquor store, they would sell it to underage kids.
Oh my God, I had a liquor store down here.
On
You
the
remember that
store.
one?
Yeah, of
The
course.
one down there that's off of Airport and
Where
Circle?
the Save-A-Lot is?
Yeah, dude, oh my God.
Ours was corner store with a K.
Corner store with a K.
That's how you knew.
I remember.
That's how you know they're going to
Store with a K. Going back to when you were 13,
Charles tried Newports the first time when I was 13.
Newports.
And that's when I started smoking cigarettes, was at 14. So 13, I smoked my first Newport, and I hated it. It made me throw up. I smoked a Newport 100. I took a couple drags. No one told me to how to do it, so I just inhaled it and swallowed the smoke. And I immediately felt dizzy and nauseous, and I was like, this is terrible. But I had craved them for a whole year, and then I just started smoking Newports immediately at 14. thinking I was some cool kid smoking weed, Newports, you know, hanging out in the city, wearing baggy clothes,
Fully unaware
oversized
that you
tees.
just looked like white trash.
Yeah, that I just looked like some ghetto white kid from the suburbs / Philly.
But in your head, that was like being cool.
Yeah,
That
to
the
me, it
mature
was the
to
thing.
look.
Like, it looked good. Like, because also at this time, mind you, it was like tall tees were the thing. You know, hip hop was the like that hip hop tall tee
Early
look.
2000s,
Yeah,
bro.
dude,
Early
that's
2000s. Yeah, dude, I
yeah.
remember that. Oh, hell yeah, I remember
That's
that.
exactly when it was big.
I went to an alternative school, bro. That's where everybody
wore
wore, bro.
I had
It looked
them
like damn
big-
your dresses, bro.
I had them big Osiris D3 skate shoes.
Fat
with the,
ones?
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude. You know, I had the
I know what you smelled like.
Yeah,
back then.
exactly. I smell like cool water, actually. In fact, that shit was terrible.
Bod.
Yeah, Axe and terrible smells.
So you were obviously like, you know, screwing around, maybe not doing the best things. You
Yeah.
know, smoking weed, smoking cigarettes.
I was
so,
taking pills here and there. You know,
How did that start?
yeah.
I was in science class and there was a girl who, you know, we were just talking. She liked me and she had been taking lorazepam but didn't like the way it made her feel.
Lorazepam. It's a
That's,
benzo, right?
Yeah, it's like an anti-anxiety medication.
Very
like
similar to
Xanax.
Xanax. Yeah, okay.
It's not as strong, but I mean, it has very similar effects. They're just a smaller dose. So I didn't consider it as like a threat, and I just started taking them like crazy. I just was, you know, I didn't care. I was just taking them, popping them here and there, and going to class and going home. And it wasn't really a problem until like 2 weeks in when I was at my house, and I had eaten like 7 or 8 of those pills that day. And I was completely basically catatonic in my chair in my room in front of my computer. I was just staring at the computer. And my mom came in and started trying to talk
Like
to
those
me.
old weed commercials, bro.
Yeah.
Where it's like sunk into
Someone
the couch.
flat on the couch, yeah. So my mom came in and tried talking to me.
It's a real thing.
And I wouldn't. She was like calling my name, calling my name, calling my name, and I wasn't responding at all. So my brother came in and he started like shaking me and he slapped me out of the chair and I just fell and hit the ground. And he grabbed me and shook me. And I woke up and I was like, dude, what? He's like, dude, mom's been trying to get your attention for like an hour. And I was like,
Damn.
what? Okay, that's okay. And he was like, it's not okay. And I was like, okay.
So
And
that
like,
was like your first experience with like real like kind of druggy behavior.
yeah,
you know,
like
so.
and like my mom didn't think anything of it. She just was like, because she knew I had dabbled in weed and thought I was just kind of high on weed. She didn't know anything about the pills.
Okay.
And my brother knew. He was absolutely. He found the rest of the pills I had in that bottle. He took them and he did not give them back. I was mad as shit. I wanted them.
My
Ain't that the
drugs.
worst?
Yeah.
Yeah, ain't that the worst when people stumble across your drugs, bro? Like, that
Yeah.
was the total worst.
Oh no, he
bro.
didn't
Like,
stumble. He said, "Where the
oh.
fuck are they?" and took them.
Oh, damn. Well, describe what happened when you were 15. You were telling me yesterday more around 15. You started taking pain pills. You got
Yeah,
an
well,
injury?
yeah, I got an injury in sports. I tore my ACL in my leg, and it was super painful. But they couldn't do anything. There's no cast or anything. They put like a half cast on it.
They
but
didn't offer to do surgery.
I was so young. They're like, you have the better chance of it just repairing itself if you just let it sit than us trying to fix it. Because doing the surgery could damage it more.
Really? Okay.
That's from what they were saying. This was back in 2000, I guess.
Okay.
2002.
I had the same thing
Yeah.
happen to me. I blew out both my knees playing
Yeah,
basketball.
it's fucking terrible.
All they do is I had to ask them for a cast, and they just throw you a prescription, and that's
Yeah,
it.
they gave me a prescription of Perk 30s, which at the time I was 14. I was like, you're giving me Perk 30s. I didn't know what that was.
Hold on, wait for an ACL injury.
Yeah.
30s, the
Yes.
blues.
Yep.
Damn.
This is in
How many of them did they give you?
30 and then another 30.
Yeah, see, they gave me 60 and 60.
Yeah.
Dude, that's insane. And that's early in the early 2000s
Yeah.
when they were like, I mean, they were just
They was
feeding
flooding it to
yeah.
everybody. It didn't matter.
And so okay, so
It was
so
like, here, take this.
when you ran through, I mean, you obviously knew that you
Yeah,
liked those pain
so-
pills while you were taking them.
Well,
right?
I mean, yeah, I was taking them and I enjoyed them, but like my mom was like on top of that because she
Monitoring
knew
it?
I had gotten them. So like she knew, like the other pills she didn't know I had them, but these she knew about. So like she was checking them and making sure I didn't go overboard and that kind of stuff, make sure I wasn't getting all crazy. Because also she could tell, I mean, the 30s, they were not easy for me to like deal with at the time. I was like
Exactly.
sleeping and shit.
Yeah, I was gonna say, were you
How
taking?
big were you at this time?
Probably like 120 pounds, like maybe 6 feet tall.
So they were laying you
130
out.
pounds, yeah.
You were taking a full 30, not breaking them in
Yeah,
half or
no.
nothing. Damn, dude, I remember the first time I ever took a Perk 30. I
got sick.
I was 17.
It was crazy.
And I was still probably about 210 pounds.
Yeah.
And I broke it in half, and it was a 15. And it was like the
Yeah.
most intense
You
experience.
know, I
I've
got
had up to
sick
that
the first
point.
time they gave it to me. It said take one on the bottle, so I took one, and I did that, and I got ill.
Damn, dude, that is insane. So you ended up going through those 2 prescription bottles, I'm
Yeah.
assuming. And then how did that progress into something worse after that?
Not immediately. It was more like trying to find who I could buy them from. Trying to
Right,
find some
yeah.
here and there.
Were you
I
doing the
ended
same
up
thing?
I ended up just finding a dealer and just telling him I was selling them, and I was getting rolls of them, which is like a 10-pack, and just buying 10 packs of them every week for $80.
You were getting wholesale prices,
Yeah,
huh?
I was getting them for $80, and like at that time they were going for like $12 a piece. But then
Damn.
Getting them for 8.
yeah, and then later they were starting to go for 15. Then they were going for 20, and then a year after that they were going for 30. And I was
Dollar
like,
per milligram.
yeah, and I was like, you want me to pay what?
Mm-hmm.
So then I kept with my dealer who happened to be named Murder. So, you know,
Murder.
nothing ever happened with him. He was decent. I just made sure I didn't ever like get out of pocket.
You never got murdered, huh?
No, he had one wonky eye that kind of freaked me out. There's something wrong with it. It was shiny. Like, you know what I mean? Like the color part, like like when the light hit it, it was shiny.
That gleam in his eye.
I don't know. Maybe he actually murdered people and that's what happens
Like
to your
a
soul.
comic book villain.
I know. It was great, but he kept me at that $8 a deal for the rolls. Like, he never upcharged me. Even when they were 30 a piece, he was like, here. He kept throwing to me for 80.
You've been wow.
Because I had been dealing with them at the same price, he kept me at that same price. Now, mind you, I wish my heroin dealer would have done that.
If he did, you might not be talking to us though.
I probably wouldn't be. You are correct, sir. I definitely would not be here, most likely. You know, eventually he got popped and he stopped being my dealer, and that made it harder. I had to start finding other avenues.
At real prices.
Yeah.
When you were taking these 30s, were you smoking?
Oh,
Were you
yeah, I was only
snorting them?
snorting them, chewing them, and eating them.
So you never smoked them or shot them up or anything like that?
I don't like needles.
So you chew them up. I mean, does that like make it kick in faster?
Yeah.
Supposedly, bro.
It
Like
does.
I tried it.
I
so
also
many
love the
times,
taste of Percocet.
Really?
Yeah,
Without the
it's an
Tylenol.
acquired taste. Without the Tylenol, yeah, no
The
Tylenol.
Tylenol makes it taste all bitter.
Yeah, that's
super
disgusting.
bitter and gross. Yeah.
But like, I love snorting it. Snorting was really my main way. But like, once my nose would stop working,
Was it begging you for help?
yeah, like it would be clogged. So I would just start chewing it, or I would just eat them. I mean, needles and me we don't get along.
That's like so wild to me because that's just the natural progression, especially
Yeah.
with
The needles is
extent
a
of
drug
your-
as well.
Yeah, well, 100%.
You
Dude,
know,
I used to have
that's-
dreams of the needle.
Yeah,
But
that's just setting the needle up as a high on its own, man.
Yeah, no, for real. But that's just the natural progression. A lot of people will start just like swallowing them.
'Cause it's
Before
not
you know
enough.
it, then they'll start chewing them
Yeah.
and then snorting them.
Yep.
And then normally right after that they'll start smoking them and
I
then
started with
and then they
snorting
start shooting them up. But so anyway, so yeah, so you were never a needle person, so that's pretty intense. So go on to the situation with your girlfriend.
Back in 2008, my brother started hooking up with this girl who left her man of 9 years for him. Like, my sister was friends with her back when we were kids. So, like, my brother found her 10 years later when he was an adult now,
Okay.
and he always wanted to hook up with her. She was with this dude for 9 years, so he, finessed her out of that house, and she eventually left him for my brother, but then my brother went to Florida with his ex while they were hooking up, so that upset her. So she went to something called the Philadelphia Folk Festival. So she calls me. I'm at my mom's house. Mind you, this entire time my stepfather has been sick with cancer and I've been stealing his medication. He was dying. Like, he had
Terminal?
stage 4 pancreatic cancer. He lived for 6 months once we found out what he had. During that 6 months, he deteriorated, and within 3 months, he couldn't get out of the bed. I had to lift him up into bed to get him so he wouldn't slide all the way down. Like, he couldn't lift himself up. So my piece of shit self decided that it was time to steal drugs from him because he couldn't move and I wanted to get high.
Was he taking them?
No, but they kept bringing him drugs, and he couldn't take them because he would get nauseous and throw them up every time.
Oh my God.
So, like, I saw it as a free opportunity, being the piece of shit I was and the drug addict mind I was in. I mean, anybody's going to make that decision if you're a drug addict, though. I mean, most people who do drugs are going to be like, there's free drugs there.
Like,
Let
he's
me
not
take them.
taking them,
Exactly, and
like,
they're going to come in and just take them
Endless
anyway.
supply, exactly.
They're gonna-
Maybe
yeah.
if he was taking them, you'd even hesitate. But
If
like,
he
the
was
fact that they're
taking
just
them-
accumulating.
If they were being used and then I was taking from somebody who needed the medication, I would have felt bad, but he was not eating them. So, she calls me. I'm all fucked up on pills. I had not done any hard drugs at this point. No.
Just pain pills.
Just pain pills and weed.
And what kind of pain pills did he have? I would imagine it's the high powered stuff.
Yeah, he had morphines.
Morphine.
He had oxys. He had
Probably Dilaudid.
Dilaudid. Yep, that was great.
Dilaudid's were my candy
there
for
were
some time, bro.
so many
A
pills.
quick reminder:
like-
we don't glorify drug
Yeah,
use,
you're
we
right,
just
yo.
keep
Yeah,
it buck,
no,
bro.
like, we don't glorify it, but
I'm gonna high five
you know.
first.
It is what it is, man. I literally had like an Altoids case just full of pills. Like, it was just like, it looked like Altoids, but they were just pills, like, just in there. And like, I was just freely just eating what I wanted. Like, it was not good. It's not safe. It's not good. Don't do this. That's all I'm saying. Don't do it.
At this point, in you just taking just painkillers
Yeah.
but regularly, did you notice any sort of deterioration of yourself, your relationship?
I was going to school. Nobody in my family knew I was taking them. I was living with my mom at the time, where my stepfather was as well. Nobody knew. No one had known anything at this point.
So you were just taking pain pills for the most part?
Yeah,
Was it
I
able
was
to fly under the
I was
radar?
healthy. I didn't look sick. I was eating food regularly. I was going to class. I was going to work. I
On
was
the
doing
outside,
everything.
you were just
I was
just fine.
a very functional addict, extremely very functional addict. The only reason people started to know is because I OD'd on heroin much later.
Yeah,
That's the only way
when-
people
that's when
found
it
out.
comes out. Though.
Yeah, so-
anyway, so you're stealing pills from
Yeah,
your
nobody
grandpa,
knew about the pills
But then
usage.
your brother's girlfriend
Yeah,
is down in Florida.
Yeah, so my brother's
Invites you
with
to a
his
show.
ex-girlfriend.
Okay. Pisses
and
her
then,
off.
So So his girl that he was supposed to be hooking up with, she calls me and invites me to this festival. And I had never been to a festival. And I was like, what do you want me to do? She's like, just show up. I was like, I don't need anything. She was like, no. So I showed up to this Philadelphia Folk Festival, which is just 5 days in a tent in the woods. Like, everybody's in tents, but it's in the woods, and there's, like, bands playing and, like, stages and, like, people in hammocks and, like, a pond and a river. It's really cool. And everybody just takes a bunch of drugs and hangs out. There's families there as well who don't take drugs and just enjoy the family aspect of it, but, like, a lot of people go to take drugs. It's not like a rave festival. It's more of, like, a folk music festival. So it's not, there's no rave music there. It's mostly, like, jam bands and stuff like that.
Nonetheless, a music festival, everybody camps out and does
Yeah,
a ton of drugs
exactly.
for days. Okay.
I get there and like we go to the campsite. Mind you, she knows I've never done anything but take pills. She's one of those people who loves to like corrupt a young boy. She's 4 years older than me. I'm 20 at the time. She's 24. And she's like, so have you ever taken Molly? And I was like, nope, what's that? And she was like, oh, I have some. And I was like, you do? So she hands me a capsule. Mind you, this capsule is full of purple crystals.
No red flags?
Nah, immediately red flags. I was like, you want me to eat this?
You take this right here? What
she was like, no, trust me, it's safe. I was like, poison, right? This looks like poison, like a cartoon version of poison. And I was like, I'm not eating it. She was like, just
skull and crossbones on
it was just like a clear capsule with like purple crystals in there. It just looks like what you would imagine, like a comic book would imagine. Like, this is like
cyanide capsule. Yeah,
like this is how you die when they're coming for you. So I take it. And because, I mean, fuck it, I'll take anything. Whatever, at this point, I did not care. I was a guinea pig. Give it to me.
So down the hatch.
Yep, immediately down the hatch. There's no feeling like that. There's nothing like it. We walked around for an hour, and then I was like, I got to sit down.
That's amazing you say that, because the couple times I've tried Molly, I am very surprised I did not get hooked by that.
Yeah,
because it was a really good couple hours.
White
really
Molly, powdered Molly is not addictive to me. I've done it many, many times, and I've never been like, yeah, I need more of that.
I could see how people get hooked on that though, because I mean that was one of the best buzzes I've ever had in my life.
But that purple orchid, man, it's just it's so pure that there's no filler, there's no
adulterants, it's just
nothing. For an hour we walked, and then I was like, I need to sit down, and we went to her campsite, which had a fire pit.
You didn't want to go out there and just start partying or anything like that?
I couldn't. My eyes were back and forth like this.
A little too much for you,
it was so strong. I was not prepared.
Were you having a good time, bad time?
I felt the most euphoric I've ever felt on anything I've ever taken other than like a psychedelic, because that's a different feeling. You can't compare that euphoric feeling you get from DMT to like, this is a different euphoric feeling. Like, I laid down next to this fire, and underneath the fire pit, like around the fire pit, was like 80 million degrees. It felt great. Right above the fire pit was like 30 degrees.
How long did you stay there on Molly?
6.5 hours.
Wow.
And we just laid there. Like, we didn't do anything. I didn't want to move. I just laid there and stared at the stars, because I don't even know what I was really staring at, because my eyes weren't really working. I couldn't stand up. I felt so good. I felt like I had melted into the ground. It was different. It was like I became one with the earth. People were talking to me, but I was not responding. I was just existing. Right. And it was just a really good feeling.
So you finally come out of that.
Yeah, so we come out of that, and then we have 3 more days at this festival. No more of that Molly, but there's other drugs there. Right. Now I start taking like other Molly and ecstasy and shit that I've never taken before. Now ecstasy is much dirtier. I don't advise anybody take it, because ecstasy pills, you don't know what is in it. There could be, now at this point I hadn't done heroin or anything like that, but in ecstasy pills there is heroin. There is, other things that you don't want in your body, PCP, whatever.
Especially nowadays.
Yes, but like even back then there was still shit in these. Like, I could tell you because I took them, and man, whew, we spent the next 3 days fucking and partying and getting it in, and it was intense, and like it started a relationship between me and her that we had to hide from my brother. We go back to her friend's house in Philly, and we party for a week and a half.
Your brother's there now?
No, he's still in Florida for another week and a half. So
with his ex?
Yeah, with his ex. So I'm with his current girl that he's supposed to be hooking up with. And so me and her are building this relationship, and we're just getting fucked up and partying, and I'm just like bonding with all her friends in the hood, because like anywhere I go, I'm like a chameleon. I'll make friends anywhere. It doesn't matter. Like when I was in jail it happened, when I was in rehab it happened. Like, I don't ruffle feathers. I'm just me. Like, I'm not trying to be anybody I'm not. Right. So like it usually molds well with most people.
Right.
We're vibing, we're doing good. Then my brother calls me, and like we're mid-rolling on a Sunday afternoon.
Rolling meaning ecstasy?
Yes. Yeah. We're mid-high, like peaking. And he calls me saying he wants to be picked up from the airport. And I was not expecting him to do that. And I was very worried.
Nervous
now
as
that,
hell.
yes, dude.
Nervous.
Immediately
This
ruined
dude's gonna
my
kill
high.
me at the airport,
yeah,
bro.
dude, immediately ruined my high. So I put her in the car and we go to the airport and pick him up. He doesn't know she's gonna be there.
With her? Oh,
Yeah.
bro, you are. Yeah.
I act like it's a surprise for him because they've been hooking up so that he can see her because they haven't seen each other in 2 weeks. I tried to make it like, here you go.
Bro, that is so messed up, Pete.
So
That is so messed up, bro. That's dog.
I don't advise doing this. Yeah, I don't even.
Dogs out.
I have never done something like this before. This shows you, everybody, what drugs will do to you.
Yeah.
What it makes you do, it loses your inability. Like, I never disrespected my brother like that before. He is my brother. He fought for me. He protected me. I was jumped in high school, and he chased the dude on his feet around the town, which is like an entire city. And he chased this dude looking for him because he beat my ass and jumped me with 2 other dudes and then left.
So your brother always looked out for you, and you were kind
Always.
of doing him wrong a little
Yeah,
bit.
I did him
so-
real fucking dirty.
So
And
you pick him up from the airport.
It's not cool. I felt terrible about it. So I pick him up at the airport trying to hide it. Now he can tell I'm really banged out. Like, he knows when I'm high. And he can tell she's really high. And he can feel the energy's off. He's not dumb. So he's like, so what's up? And I was like, nothing. And he was like, what's going on? And I was like, nothing. He was like, so like, you want to hang out? Like, I'm nervous. So like, I don't want to hang out with him. I was like, dude, you just need to go home. Like, what do you want me to do? He was like, you don't want to like hang out or nothing, bro? I was like, nah. And he like immediately knew something was up. So I took him home and, you know, we all hung out. And for like the next 3 weeks, he proceeded to continue to hook up with her. And I proceeded to continue to hook up with her. This is why I should have known she was going to fucking leave me.
Right.
But I didn't believe it because of drugs. I continued to sleep with her behind his back. And eventually she decides that she doesn't want to be with him anymore. She wants to be with me. So we break the news to him. He stops talking to me for 6 months.
This whole time you guys are both hanging out together and stuff
We're
like
living
that,
together
like,
in the same
oh
apartment.
my God, I mean, did
And
he know?
she's-
I mean, were you guys like still coming on to each other?
We
like,
were
how-
fucking
in
when he
front of him?
wasn't in the house. When he would go to work, we would fuck. Or one morning, he came home from work, and she was still in my bed from the night before, and we heard the door open. I don't know how she did this, but in 3 steps, she made it out of my room and into his bed before he made it up the stairs, and he had no idea she was in my bed that night. She was sneaky. She
But
was
then it got to
very
the point where
sneaky.
you guys just completely
Yeah,
got
we
exclusive?
just, she was like, she wanted to be with me and not him. She was like, look, I love you. And I was like, all right, cool. I was like, I love you too. So we told him and he hated me for 6 months. Like,
Understandably so.
Yeah, I'm surprised he still talks to me. You know, then me and her have a 5-year relationship of drug-fueled, raving, partying, crazy nonsense.
Partied for 5 years straight.
Yeah, I ended up becoming a photographer in the rave scene so that we could get into shows for free because they were expensive and I thought I could get paid, but ended up just getting into shows for free. She was
Still
the
a good
one who was
trade-off.
trying to run the company, and she got us in for door fee instead of for getting us paid. But it was cool. Got to go to shows. I got to see some of the biggest EDM names like Excision, Vasky, like all the big people that aren't big anymore but used to be back when I was doing this in 09, 10, 11. But like we were doing so many drugs. There was this one girl, Miranda, who owned a townhouse in Philadelphia, had like a sky deck and everything. She had a 5-foot tall, 3-foot wide safe full of drugs. That's how we found her. She was one of the coolest people I've ever met in my life. And me and her, like, she didn't like anybody. She was in transition, so most people picked on her. You know,
Okay.
she used to be a guy.
Oh, wow. Okay.
She still was heavy. It wasn't like a full transition, so she was like halfway through.
Okay.
But people judged her for that, and like I don't care. I don't care. Like, you can be whatever you want. Don't give a shit. You be a dude, be a girl, be half of what. I don't care. Be a unicorn. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
So like I was just really cool with her, and so me and her bonded. You know, we were cool. Everybody always kind of like picked on her, and she was like, "Look, dude, I don't only trust you." I was like, "What?" She was like, we get fucked up, and I can't trust these people not to steal from me." Right. And I was like, "Cool." She was like, "Can you sit here?" I was like, "Where?" She's like, "Right here." And I was like, "This chair next to your safe full of drugs." She was like, "Yeah, if you guard the safe, you can have what you want." Now, mind you, there's like eyedroppers full of liquid LSD in there, and like, you know, fucking mescaline, and every drug you could imagine she has, because she made $70,000 a month. She was in tech. She didn't let anybody drive her car. She had a really nice car. It was one of those Dodge SRT Hellcat things.
Oh, nice.
Super nice truck. Wouldn't let nobody drive it. But she let me guard her drugs. And for me, I mean, that was fantastic. I was like, yeah.
Right.
So I
What
just
sign?
so I just sat on her 3rd floor, which is right next to the sky deck, and like every weekend we would just hang out there, get real fucked up, and like, you know, people who would come up and ask me for things, and I would have to wait for her authorization on it. But like I could dose people, and like, you know, I could dose
She was
myself.
slanging for her, basically.
Yeah, but I don't even know if people were buying this. I think she was giving it to people for free. Like,
dude.
people were just coming up. I don't know if there was money transactions happening. I just know that I was instructed to give
You were
it to people.
piecing it out for
Yeah.
her. Okay.
And like, and I was allowed to dabble in whatever I wanted. She didn't care how much I took as long as I didn't die on her. And that's all she cared.
Guarding the candy store,
Yes,
basically.
and it was I would take. She had sugar cubes up there, and I would take those, and I would drip acid on there 5 times, and then I would get some Molly. I would take like 5 hits of Molly. I would do them both.
You were just
at the
doing
beginning of my night.
everything and
Everything to the point where like I don't know how people weren't stealing from the safe, but like everything looked like a kaleidoscope. I loved it. Everything showed like the geometrical shapes that everything is created through. The stuff, everything consists of like a. You ever seen the sound frequencies on sand and how it creates that geometrical shape? That's what everything's created as. Like all this stuff is created like that. So when you take psychedelics, sometimes you can see the webbing of what everything's created with. Okay. So that's what I'm seeing. But I can still see stuff, but it doesn't look solid.
Right.
So like, you know, if people wanted to be smart, I'm sure they could like sneak something.
And like you wouldn't be able to visually tell it.
Yeah, like if they took 2 instead of 1, I probably couldn't have like been able to tell. But I don't think she cared really like that, as long as they weren't just like coming in freely and fucking going crazy.
So how did your relationship with her progress, and how does that play in the story?
It eventually just stopped because me and my ex, we stopped raving. And
took a little break?
We took about a year off because I couldn't take it anymore. My body hurt. Every time we did something, it would be like a 7-day recovery of anything we did. I would be like 7 days, I gotta lay down and I can't go to work, I gotta eat food and sleep. To the point where I was like, this is not safe, this is not okay.
Your vital organs hurt?
Yeah, everything hurt, dude. Everything hurt. Everything.
That was a very common thing for me, dude. I'd wake up and you're not supposed to feel your vital organs, but I'd wake up and my liver would hurt, and I'm like, dude, you gotta really pump your brakes.
It's bad.
I'm in my mid-20s at this time.
Exactly,
dude,
yeah, me too. So we took a 1-year break. She told me
I
for a year that she wanted to go back. This whole year we were out, she was telling me she wanted to go back, and I kept saying no. And I was doing Percocet still at this time because I needed to cope with the pain. But we're like broke. You know, we don't have much money, so like we're buying food, and then I'm using the rest of our money to buy perks and not anything else. So she can't go raving, she can't get her drugs, she can't do anything else. So she leaves.
So your opiate use is just like raging right now.
Yeah, because I was in so much pain from the other drugs.
And so she bounces out.
So she hops on the back of another man's motorcycle and doesn't come back.
Damn.
Literally gone. After 5 years of being together, and I was like, I should have seen it coming though. Like now I know I should have seen it coming. At the time, it devastated me.
You never thought that this girl that had left her man of a couple years for your brother and then left him for you. You couldn't fathom that she would leave you.
That's the messed up part. I never thought that could happen.
Drugs, guys. Don't do drugs.
At first, I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I was so codependent on our relationship to exist that I literally felt like half of my body was gone. I could not function.
Didn't know how to continue on without her.
I was taking like 280 milligrams of Adderall a day.
Damn.
In the pill form, and it was like the 30s, the tablets.
Okay.
You know, I was crushing them up and eating them and everything, but I wasn't eating food. So I was turning
straight
blue.
tweaker.
I was like, I wasn't tweaking. I was like blue. I was like dead, like a zombie. Like I didn't function normal. I was working at a deli. And I was like the deli's favorite person. Like everyone came in to tell me their problems. I would help them solve things, like a therapist basically. But like I was the neighborhood homie, like to everybody. But I wasn't doing that. Everybody was coming in and worried about me to the point where they called my family, and my family had to come and take me home because that was so bad. Like my boss was like, "Yeah, you got to get him out of here."
What is life like? What is a day like on that amount of Adderall?
I was on 6 days of no sleep, and that's why I was like that. It's because I hadn't eaten or slept in 6 days. I drank water. That's the only thing I was doing was drinking water.
Were you seeing the shadow people?
Yeah, everything was fucked up, dude. That's why I didn't know how I was slicing meats at a deli and making sandwiches. Like I didn't.
Open.
I was an opiate addict,
autopilot.
Bro. When it came to uppers was never my jam, bro.
Oh, that's not even the beginning of my uppers usage, man.
I mean, no.
Well, it is the very beginning,
actually.
There was shadow people to me, but I knew that they weren't there. I was aware enough to know, like, that's fucking with me. That would happen.
A lot of times when, you get into this level of psychosis, when you've been up for so many days, that people start hallucinating. And there's a common theme amongst these, meth users that they usually see these
psychosis,
shadow people.
Yeah,
psychosis. And
but see, that's the thing.
And it really, these addicts really believe that those people are there and that people are out to get them and that the cops are going to kick down their door just because.
There's certain people who should not be taking those kind of
drugs. Looks miserable to me,
and like
bro.
I've never been at that point of like looking out my window like someone's coming for me. But I've taken
peeking out the window every 10 seconds. Your blinds are even broken.
I've taken enough that I should have been, but I'm a well-versed drug addict. Like I've been doing this a long time.
But so people at the deli 6 days in, they were like probably like, they called your family, everything.
Yeah, they called my family. My family took me home. I went to my brother's house, did like 2 weeks of Percocet. I stole them from him. He was selling perks at the time.
Because you're trying to come down off
that. I was trying to come down off the Adderall. I had some left, and he took them from me and gave them to my mom because I was prescribed them. I got them back eventually, but they were regulated.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Because I needed them.
So they gave them back to you as prescribed.
Yeah, basically. I was microdosing them. I was taking like a fifth of a pill.
You went from megadosing to microdosing?
Yeah, well, after going to my brother's
that doesn't really ever happen.
Well, after going to my brother's 2 weeks on Percocet, I realized that's not helping me, and I went to move into my mom's apartment. She stayed in that apartment for like a year, and then she moved to a house, and I moved into that house with her as well. The apartment I was in, I spent 8 months not leaving my bedroom. I was eating food, but I was meditating. I spent the entire 8 months. 8 months.
In full sobriety.
Yeah, well, and I was microdosing the Adderall. That's
Adderall, okay.
Just to keep, because I knew that my brain wouldn't allow me to stay in my meditative state alone by itself because I can't stop it from thinking.
You were not abusing the prescription.
I was not abusing. I was taking less than prescribed, much less. But I knew that less was better.
So
I didn't learn about moderation until 26.
It took a long time.
Yeah.
So in that 8 months of meditation, like what do you think were like the big like strides that you made for like your own mental stability?
I had a really interesting situation. It was a 6-hour meditation. In the first 2 hours, there was nothingness. I was just kind of breathing, and the only way to keep myself in my meditative state is concentrating on my breath, like 10-second in breath, 10-second out breath. And the only way is to count that 10 seconds. Otherwise, my brain will think about everything else.
Wow.
And if I don't count those seconds, if I stop counting those seconds, I will stop meditating. It stops. But if I do it long enough, I will fall into my meditative state where I can stop counting. And I'm in that state. It's like tripping, but you don't need drugs to get there.
Okay. That's what I understand.
Heard a lot about
Yeah.
That's what I've understood.
So,
about it.
but I had been meditating for 6 years at this point, on and off, not seriously enough, but I knew what to do to get me to my core center.
And you took it very seriously through these 8 months.
Yeah, you have to envision your happy place, which for me was inside. I imagined myself sitting on this grassy knoll, like a hill. I'm seeing the back of myself sitting Indian style next to like a perfect tree with the sun, blue skies,
Let's go.
nice breeze, like
intense.
beautiful moment day. And that's just, I imagine myself sitting there, and then I imagine that inside of like this steampunk container full of energy that's inside of my body. So like that, every time I envision that, it helps me center myself and realize like where my core is.
Okay.
And then I do my breathing, and that's after doing 5-6 years of it took me that long to understand what my core is, what my happy place is, how to get there, how to stay in that place.
Now that seems like a really good time in your life where you started to get things together. You started to, understand yourself a little bit more. But at what point did you start breaking away from that again? What happened there?
Well, I mean that meditative state, cured my heartbreak. I did like a separation ritual basically, where I thought of the strings that connected to my ex through spiritual connections, and I severed them to try to give myself like a break from feeling that spiritual connection. Yeah. Like me and her were very deeply spiritual connected, so everything she felt, I felt, and everything I felt, she felt. So I constantly was feeling her, regardless of being around her. So it was always hurting. So I had to do something to stop feeling what I was feeling. I did the ritual, and it worked during the meditation. I had a moment where, I mean, most people might think I'm crazy, but I saw a light being. There was no words spoken, but there was thoughts projected, like they tell you who they are. They don't have a mouth. If you imagine someone was built of light, like, they have an outline of a human, because that's how they want me to understand what they look like, but that's not what they look like. It's just how I would understand them without freaking out.
Right.
Because like my current mind would not be able to conceive what they truly are, but they were letting me know like everything's okay, don't worry. It was kind of like one of those like near-death experiences, but it wasn't near death. I was just conversing with I was conversing with the spiritual realm. I was astral projecting into the realm where I can talk, but it's thoughts, it's not words.
And I know that might sound crazy to certain people, but look up astral projecting.
Yeah.
Dude, it's pretty intense.
Once they explained to me that everything was cool, I was not heartbroken as much anymore. I was able to move on from her. And then about a few months after that, she came back into my life.
Damn.
I did the weak thing. I let her back. She broke up with the dude she was seeing who was abusing her, and she needed somewhere to go. I was living with my mom at the time. My mom was like, fucking no. You better not bring her in my house.
She just put you
And
through hell.
I was like, dude, she has nowhere to go. My mom was like, Pete, I fucking love you. All right, for a month. So she stayed for 2 months.
Oh.
She started fucking somebody else while she was in my mom's house. Not in my mom's house, but she went out with another dude.
While she was living
Yeah,
there.
when I told her the one rule, don't fuck anyone. That's all I ask. You can stay here. We don't have to be anything. Do not go out and fuck somebody else while you're here for these 2 months.
For my own mental.
Because I don't want you bringing people back like that. Don't be bringing shit back to my mom's house. It's my
And then
mom's
that would
house.
put you right back in the same spot you were before you fixed yourself.
But she did it, and it broke me again. And then my brother, I went over to his house. He was hanging out with his friend. My brother was having an emotional moment, and he was like, I'm going to use. And I was like, you're going to what? Like, we hadn't used heroin at this time. He was like, I'm going to do dope. And I was like, you're going to do what? And like, this was real dope. This was brown, real heroin, like real heroin. And I was like, okay, let me get some.
And that's amazing to me up until this point that you had never done heroin.
None,
because,
none.
I mean...
I knew what it would do. I knew how addictive I was and how it would kill me.
And I can't imagine how plentiful wasn't there. Because like, for people that don't know, Philadelphia and Baltimore on the East Coast, like everybody thinks of Skid Row on the West Coast in LA, you know what I mean? Like Skid Row, where everybody's just doing heroin, dying on the streets. Like Kensington and Philadelphia, I was actually just watching a documentary on that the other day. Like that has some of the highest opiate overdose rates in the country.
They got the open drug market.
Open air
basically.
drug markets, dude. I mean, literally,
And
like
then the
it's
free
the
needle
Skid Row.
houses.
It's the Skid Row of the East Coast, man. Seriously.
Knowing how much I loved getting high in general,
You knew you couldn't touch
I knew I
opiates.
shouldn't touch heroin. I could touch opiates. I just knew I should never go to heroin. I
Take
made
that
a
next
promise
step.
to myself I would never do heroin. Yeah, my brother was about to use with his friend, and I happened to be there, and I was like, all right, man, I guess let's try it. People say the second time you let a person back in, that hurts 1,000 times worse than the first, and they're not fucking wrong. Like that first time hurt, I was devastated, but the second time she did it, like, because I was so much of a fool to allow her just to do it again,
And you had healed yourself.
It hurt me more. Like, I hurt myself. It wasn't her who hurt me, it was me allowing her in that hurt. So I was more mad at myself in the situation, and I was like, I guess I don't want to feel anything anymore. You know Capri Sun straws, how tiny they are? How they have a little cut at the bottom? I just took one of those, just dipped it in the bag and went...
Out here, you'd basically, the heroin would come in like gunpowder, is what you
Yeah,
call
that's
it.
so
and then
weird.
once you blow
Like brown
on it, it would
sugar
gel up.
shit,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. And the first time I seen it, I was like, dude, I just got ripped off.
Yeah.
Like, at that point, I'd been buying like rock heroin,
Right,
like rock
yeah.
black
Yeah,
tar,
like
but
black tar.
sometimes it came in powder. So anyways, what we would do is we get like a McDonald's straw, cut it at like a
Yeah,
45-degree
little
angle,
sniff it.
burn the other tip so it closes, and you could just literally scoop it like
Yeah,
this.
see that? Use the Capri Sun straws because heroin's real
Crack
strong.
it.
When I used to do pills, I used to take them and put them in McDonald's straws, fold it over and hit it and crush it, and it would crush the pill up and just snort it that way.
Yep.
So I figured that with the powder and the Capri Sun straw, because heroin's so strong, you don't want to put a McDonald's straw of heroin in your nose.
Capri Sun.
Yeah, Capri Sun, real tiny.
Capri Sun.
Real little. We were using that for a while, and that's what I used until I bumped it up to a little bit bigger of a straw, but like, it never went beyond anything other than snorting it. I only ever snorted
It
it.
still blows my mind. Did you ever have any incidents with overdoses?
Yes.
How many times did you overdose total? 3?
3, yeah.
Okay, so go through the first one.
So the first time, I was about a year in, and I had been using so heavy. I had probably 3 or 4 different connects, and I had picked up already. And then one of my other connects called me with a new batch. And he was like, you want to try it? I love being a guinea pig at the time. That was great. You got free drugs? Give it to
To
me.
go into that a little bit more for people that don't know, a lot of times these heroin dealers, most of the time, they don't take it. I've met quite a few of heroin dealers that did take it, but a lot of times the ones that don't take it, they'll have a select 3-4 guys that they'll just kick some dope down to try it to make sure the quality's good, and then they'll get the feedback from them. Oh, this stuff's good, this stuff's
They're
bad.
not going to say no.
Exactly.
No.
I did that for a little bit too.
Yeah.
But that didn't last too long.
You get free stuff, and like he gave me a nice big sack. And
Was it a hot batch or what?
He didn't know, and neither did I at the time. Like, he just got the batch, and he was trying it out, and he gave it to me. I did it, and I went to the grocery store. I remember walking through the store, getting what I needed, and I remember paying, and then I woke up in the hospital. Apparently what happened was I went, and I walked out of the grocery store. Some guy saw me walk into my car, and he noticed that I was, like, kind of loopy and, like, kind of not walking right, and he stopped me, and when he stopped me, I passed out. So he called an ambulance thinking I was having a seizure because I was, like, convulsing on the ground. They, took me to the hospital. My family couldn't figure out where I was. They knew I had gone to the store, but I had not come home. And, like, nobody called them because I'm at the hospital. They don't even know what I'm there for. The ambulance didn't know. They thought I was having a seizure. They didn't know it was a drug overdose. They had no idea. They didn't know until I woke up and told them what it was. Could they then treat me? They just had me in the hospital.
You're lucky you didn't die, bro.
Yeah.
They didn't
I'm
hit you with
still
Narcan
here.
or nothing.
I don't
would
know.
imagine that part of the country knowing like the drug use out there.
They have to know the signs, right?
But they didn't. But they still asked me what I had taken when I woke up. So I mean, then they gave me something as soon as they found out what I had taken. They were like, "We can't treat you until we know." So I don't think they did. I woke up in the hospital to my whole family around me. Dude, this is a few hours after I had fallen out at the Super Fresh. They had been calling hospitals and police stations looking for me. So they found me at a hospital, and they all showed up, and my whole family's crying, and they're all upset. And they don't know what's happening. Nobody had known I was doing heroin except for my brother.
It's a way to find out, bro.
Yeah, so, and like they didn't know about Jordan, my brother's heroin use either. That's still not known yet. I tell them what's going on, and they treat me, and then they send me home. My family's like, we got to do something about this. And my brother tries to get clean. He stopped using for that short period of time. 2 weeks go by, maybe a month. And, everything's okay, but like, I'm still in pain and everything still kind of sucks. Me and my brother want to get something to ease the pain, so we thinking about getting Xanax. We call one of our dealers, but our dealers that sells us the Xanax also is an old dope dealer. But like I wasn't gonna ask him for dope. My brother's like, just go get the Xanax, don't get anything else. I was like, okay. So I drive down there because he's withdrawing still. Like he can't drive. He's so sick. He's in a fetal position, like in bed, like
no
so
strength.
Sick. Yeah. He had been off it not as long because he didn't get caught like I did, so he had used recently, but it was only like a week or two since he used, but like a month since I used, so I was in a much better shape. So I went to get the Xanax. Now this is like a dealer that we didn't deal with that often. He was not like our regular guy. Oh yeah, the first time that I died that dealer called me after he found out that I died, and he apologized, and he got rid of the badge.
Hell?
Yeah, he got rid of the badge. He apologized, and he was like, I didn't deal with that guy ever again. He's like, I'm so sorry that happened.
Damn.
And I've never had a dealer
yeah,
call me
I
and
was like,
apologize.
I've never even heard of it.
He didn't mean. I felt bad because he felt bad. I was like, at least he's apologizing. Like he was like, I'm gonna get other shit if you still want
That's
it.
unheard of, bro.
Yeah, he was like, I'm gonna get other shit if you still want it. I was like, I don't.
I'm gonna respectfully pass. Yeah.
I'm good. So then I go to
So
this
the
other
second
guy
time?
to get Xanax. I wasn't looking for dope. I was clean.
But lo and behold,
Yeah,
it was
this
right
dude's
there.
like, hey,
Yeah.
I got a free sample. And
Oh.
with this dude, he gave me the sample in like a plastic baggie, and it was just in the baggie, like the stuff. But when I got it, I looked at it, and it was like this crystalline, shiny, glistening, like diamonds looking
Was
substance.
it like white china or something
It
like
was, no, I've had white china. That shit didn't kill me. This was carfentanil.
that? Carfentanil. You know what's crazy? Everybody's seen those examples of like fentanyl, 2 grains of salt enough to kill you.
Yeah.
Well, carfentanil is like
Elephant
a
tranquilizer.
sixth of those 2 grains
yeah.
of salt. Like I don't want to
And
like
this dude
misquote
gave
it,
me
but
a
it's
baggie
so
of
much
it.
more potent than fentanyl.
This stuff's meant for elephants, not
So
for
what'd you do?
humans.
Just
And like mind you, I was like, ooh, drugs, woohoo!
Yeah.
I didn't care. I was actually good at this point. Like I had been a month clean, so like yeah, I wasn't feeling great, but I wasn't in like sick withdrawal mode, so I didn't have to do it. I could have just taken the Xanax and not fucking done it like a smart person.
So
But
you end up doing it.
My dumb ass snorted the entire bag. I had a straw in my pocket. I don't know why it was there, but it was. It's a Capri Sun straw. I guess it was in from previous wash or something. I was searching around my car, and I was like, in my fifth pocket. I was like, what? And I went in here and grabbed it, and I did the whole bag. Drove back to my brother's house. Took 20 minutes. Get to my brother's house. Walk up his stairs. I am out of breath. Like I've never been this out of breath before. It's because I was fucking dying, and I didn't know it. So I get up his flight of steps. Got a full flight of steps. I get into his bedroom, and he's on the bed still, like curled up. And I'm like, Jordan. And I just fall out onto the floor.
You're lucky you made it up, bro.
Yeah, and I whack my face on the ground, and he immediately jumps up, and like he doesn't have arm strength to be able to do CPR on me. So like
He's so withdrawn. He's
Yeah.
he's withdrawn so hard. He didn't have the
dude.
strength to. Jeez,
so
man.
he has to, mind you, right now he's like 175 pounds. So he uses all of his weight with his knees to knee me in my chest, trying to get my heart started while he's on the phone with the ambulance, trying to get an ambulance to the house. Also profusely crying. We were forced as kids not to cry. My dad said, "You cry, I'll give you something to cry about." We don't use tears. As I've become a father now, I've become more
Exactly,
able to
dude.
cry. I can cry
Yeah.
now, no problem.
Ain't no shame in it.
But
I don't
when
give
I
a
was
damn.
at this point, there was no way we could cry. We
You
were
woke up
not.
to this dude bawling.
Yeah, he was like, I've never seen this man crying so hard, and like snot is pouring out of his nose and tears. His face is red, and he's screaming my name, and he's like shaking me, and I wake up, and I'm like, what the fuck, dude? And he's like, bro, and I'm like, what? He's like, you just fucking died again, and I was like, oh fuck, and just laid back down. The first time I don't remember shit. The second time it happened, I remember falling out, and then nothing.
You seen them curtains closing.
Yeah, it just got black. It
Yeah.
just went black, and I remember nothing. It was silent, like absolutely silent. And then the next thing I hear is my brother screaming my name, but it's still black. It's pitch black. So like as I wake up, I have this immediate euphoria of like, where am I? Oh, this is interesting. What am I doing here? Wait. Oh shit. And I realized like every pain I've caused, all the drugs I've taken, how much pain my body's in, the fact I just died, and everything washed back over me, and I was like, oh fuck, dude.
Would you say that that's like a low point?
That
in
was
your
the point
usage?
where I immediately knew something had to change.
went to rehab after
when
that, yeah?
that weight hit me, when I woke back up from being dead, and like I felt the euphoria of not having any of that weight on my shoulders for one split second, and it was fucking amazing. It was amazing.
intense.
It was greater than any drug. It was like being a kid again with no worries and no problems and no ailments, nothing.
I get it.
And it was amazing. And then everything weighted back down of everything I've done, all the pain I've caused, everyone I've stolen from, all the
That's
people I've
intense, bro.
upset.
I've never heard a story like that. That's
And
crazy.
it shifted my need to want to get high anymore. I didn't want to die. I wasn't getting high to die. I was getting high to get high. I was getting high to stop feeling pain anymore.
As most addicts do.
Yeah.
There's always
and
some base problem that they're running from. Yeah.
of course.
Most of the time.
It led to me dying, which is not what I wanted. And like I knew from like the pain I saw on my brother's face, a kid that like I never see cry like that, and someone who doesn't show
Yeah.
pain.
I remember you crying. I remember
It-
Troy crying.
It,
Yeah.
it really puts into perspective
Yeah.
the wreckage and
Right.
the
What
problems
you're
that
putting
you
on
put
these other people.
around
And then
you.
my family came to me, like, they didn't do, like, an intervention thing, but my mom came to me on her own, and my sister came to me on her own, and they expressed to me, like, how they felt and how upset they were with me. Like, they don't trust me right now, but they love me still, and they're still going to be there for me at every step of the way, but they need to see me do better before they can trust me again.
No, they loved you but hated your behavior.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And they were were upset with how I lied to them multiple times, especially the second time I died.
Did they put you in rehab? How'd that go?
Well, I was in intensive outpatient at the time.
Outpatient never works, bro.
No,
I've never seen outpatient.
Everyone in outpatient was selling to each other or using.
100%.
Everyone.
That's literally a place where you go to make connects.
Yeah, it was so stupid. I went in there.
Never made sense to me.
It's the worst situation you can put an addict in is intensive outpatient, and they know it. And they drug test you consistently, but they just don't do anything about it.
I've never heard success stories coming out of outpatient.
The second time I died, they're like, look, this is obviously not working. You're going to have to do inpatient. And I was immediately like, no. I was like, I will run away. And
You will never see me again.
Within the 5 years I was with my ex, just to go back real quick, I was selling cannabis in Pennsylvania in a school zone, and I got caught, and I went to jail. So I have a record. I have 2 felonies on my record.
Damn.
But like when I went to jail, after dealing with all that and having my house raided and everything, I told myself, never the fuck again. I'm not going back to jail. I don't care what it is. I'm not going back to jail. Never. It doesn't do anything. There's no good that jail
doesn't rehabilitate
no.
people. It'll take your average little low-level criminal and make them a hardened criminal.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I
From a small crime to a large crime.
That's what's wrong with our system right now. Whole nother story, but go ahead.
So, but that just, it emboldened me, like, I don't want to go through a institution like that again. So then when it was time to go to rehab, I was immediately like,
I'm not going to inpatient. Yeah, I'll go to
hell. But they were like, you have no choice. It's either jail or inpatient. And I was like, what does jail have to do with anything? They're like, well, if you keep buying drugs, you're eventually going to get caught. You're eventually going to end up in jail, dead, or in rehab. And I was like,
good point.
Yeah. All right. I was like, set it up. So they sent me to Valley Forge Medical Center. It wasn't terrible. They say the program works if you work it.
Oh my God, yeah.
It's
not
a
real thing though. But that's a real thing.
It's not. I don't even think it was
so
really
cliche,
the
but
program.
For you.
Yeah, it wasn't the program so much that worked. Like the 12 steps is a business model. Going around and telling the people
it
you've
works
harmed,
for some people. Yeah.
what you've done to them, and how you've harmed them can cause more harm because sometimes they don't know about certain things and they don't need to know about certain things. So those 12 steps I always looked at as like they're
It works for some people.
Yes,
it works for some people.
It does.
And it's valuable
to me,
for some people. Some
they
people
were pushing it too hard. It does work if you do the steps in a manner that works for you. You don't have to do them 1 to 12. Do them like 12 to 1 if you want, or do them like 10, 6, 3, 1, 12. Who cares?
Cookie cutter shit
Yeah.
is not for the mass public in general.
Especially
with vulnerable people.
If you're an addict, yeah. Not everybody's the same. None of us are the same.
Exactly.
So like I found a way that worked for me, and I admitted to the people who mattered to me the things I did wrong that they didn't know about that I knew wouldn't harm them. Like I didn't tell my brother about all the stuff I stole from him, like all the drugs I stole from him. I'm sure he knows, but like I don't need to tell him that because
it's only going to open up wounds that are already closed.
And I don't want to do all that.
I feel that very similar way here. Like with I actually just told my mom yesterday. You know, she asked me about these interviews, and I asked her, I was like, you know what, do me a favor, Mom. I would advise you not to watch any of them, honestly, because, you know, like I can't imagine as a parent hearing those things coming out of my mouth. Like that would suck if my boys did that. And also when, you know, we started doing these tapings, and I was like encouraging my wife to watch them, I could tell she was uncomfortable with it, so I really stopped pushing it on her because there's a lot of things here that I'm coming out with that she has no idea. I really forgot for a second, even though I've done a lot of overcoming in my life and I'm in a good place right now, there was a time I lived a really horrible double life, bro. Horrible that she had no clue. And so it's like, so a lot of times it'll
the darkness
more.
Is
bro.
strong,
Darkness
bro.
is intense.
You're going through rehab.
Yeah.
And just by way of
So,
pacing, have you even heard of kratom at this time?
No. They had everybody in there on medications. The first week I was in there, I didn't agree with their methods. I thought you're telling us all of us were sober, but you're feeding us 9 different medications every day to keep us sober. But then I looked at it as those medications, I started reading what they're actually giving us, and most of them are placebos or things that are meant to help you cope with
the side effects.
Yes. Yeah. None of them are actually getting us high. Right. Even one of them they tell you is a sleep medication, is an antihistamine. It's fucking Benadryl. But they don't tell you it's Benadryl. They tell you it's something else to make you think it's a different drug. So I noticed like a lot of what they're doing is like placebo effect stuff. After the first week, I started to actually share. I started to devote myself to the group and actually tell my story.
Intense part right here.
And so I started doing what we're doing, and I told my story in the rehab with the other people.
You found that therapeutic.
Yeah, there's about 80 people there. It's like a revolving door, but there's about 80 people in there at all times, and I was there for 3 weeks, so I saw a good bit of people. I didn't realize at first, but I would just tell my story, and I would express what happened to me and how I dealt with what I went through. And after the meetings would be over, people would come up to me, and they would be like, dude, that really helped me. I'm like, what helped you? And they're like,
"You're doing that for me."
Yeah, like, what's my story helped you? They're like, yeah, like the way you dealt with it, what you did, like now I can apply that to my life. I really appreciate that. Like women, men, young, old, it didn't matter. Like people were just hearing it. So I was like, okay, so this means sharing my story will affect somebody. My addiction, I only wanted ever to turn it around into something positive, turn it around into something that could help somebody else not suffer from the same shit.
It's literally what we're doing here today. That is literally our goal. That's our mission right here.
In rehab, they don't give you options now. In rehab, I knew cannabis was my option. Because from smoking cannabis, I could always put it down. There was never like I had to have weed. If I didn't have it, yeah, it would be probably a little bit more aggressive as a person because my anger level would be higher. But you would learn how to cope with that. Anger is just another emotion.
I think that's sobriety in a weird way. It looks different to different people.
Yeah.
You know, because there's some people who believe that if you are sober but you smoke weed, that doesn't quote unquote count.
Everybody's recovery is different, bro.
But that's the problem. There's some
people that believe that, you know, if you're taking kratom in recovery, that you're not totally, you know, recovered. Listen, like
There's a reason for that though. If people would do their science, is that most people who have addictive brains are lacking dopamine, serotonin receptors that most people produce on a regular balance. So say you're producing 10 receptors at a time, and we produce 4 or 5. We need something to make it 10 so that we feel normal. Right. So where everybody else's sobriety is nothing, we need cannabis or kratom to replace what we're lacking from our previously lacking brain.
Very intense point. I like that. But like just to kind of like speed things on a little bit. Okay, so you get out of rehab.
Yeah, so I get out of rehab and I know that my only option in Pennsylvania is to leave. There's no medical marijuana for opiate usage in Pennsylvania at this point.
There's a state on the other side of the country. Colorado just legalized it. I'm going to get over there to the airport.
I got out of rehab March 21st, 2018. May 27th is when I hit Colorado. In that 2-month period, I had a moment of weakness where I was scared of leaving Pennsylvania, and I used dope. I went to my dealer, and I got dope, and this was like real dope. This wasn't fentanyl. I knew because who I was going to. This is my one legit dude who had been out of town for months. He came back. I bought from him. And this was like right before I was coming out here. It was like a week before I was supposed to leave.
Finally
so
picked up
I had
one more
been
day.
using for that whole week. So I picked up that day, and then I was using all the way up to the airport, and I was freaking out. And I was like, fuck, what am I going to do? You can't go to the airport with heroin. Yeah. I got a nose spray bottle, the Afrin nose spray shit, and I opened it up, and I poured it down the sink, and I put water in there, and I poured all my powdered heroin in the bottle, and I closed it back up, and I shook it.
Little bumps?
So then I could just squirt it into my nose while I was on the plane. So I was doing that, and I got it through security. I just put it back on my bag like it was normal and just got through security. So I got on the plane, and I was using it, and I go into the bathroom to use it, and I don't know if it was the pressure on the plane or me being nervous of using it on the plane, but it burst. Like the top and the bottom came apart, and it shot all over the place. I had like heroin on my face. It was like on my shirt, and I was like, fuck. So I just poured it in the toilet thing, and I just flushed the thing, just kept the plastic and put it back in my bag.
You probably felt sick instantly. Huh?
Immediately felt nauseous. I don't know anybody who's ever done drugs. Like immediately, when you lose your stash that you have, you immediately feel ill.
Like on the opposite end too. It's like I could be so dope sick, but the second I see my drug dealer pull into the parking lot,
or like he hits you up and you know he's coming, you're like,
he's coming. Yes. Then all of a sudden you feel a little better. Anybody in addiction can attest to that. Yeah, there's a big psychological game behind huge. Addiction.
So I get off the plane, I'm immediately ill. Now there's this girl who's waiting to pick me up, and I'm like, take me to the dispensary. Just let's go. I spend $350. I take a 100 milligram liquid drinks and I just drink the entire thing. I get concentrate, put it in a pen, start hitting it immediately, smoke like half a gram.
Start feeling better.
I immediately start feeling better. Like I'm not great, but I'm not violently ill. Now mind you, this girl thinks I'm sober. This girl knew me when I was in addiction in Philadelphia. She moved out to Colorado to get away from Philadelphia. I got clean, called her, told her I was clean,
and she gave you a spot out here.
She said I could move in with her out here if, I came out here clean.
But you weren't ready for a relationship at that point, right?
But I wasn't, and she knew that. But, so we moved in together. I told her within the first week that I had used right before I left. I admitted it to her because she was like, something's wrong with you, because I was acting funny. I was ill because weed wasn't doing it exactly. So I went to a clinic. They wouldn't help me because I wasn't exactly a citizen of Colorado yet. I met a guy out there who was like, I have a friend. This guy I met just got out of jail. He was like, I need a ride. And I was like, where do you need to go? He's like, to my dealer. I was like, you got dope? And he was like, yeah. And I thought I was about to get powder dope. I was like, woo! So
like I mentioned before, on the East Coast, it's a lot of heroin. I mean, the heroin's like powder. Yep. Out here, when it comes up from Mexico, it's tar. When I heard all these stories about the East Coast dope, I was like enamored by it. I've heard that before too. And like, when a lot of people come from the East Coast out here, they're like, what the hell is this? Like, it looks like molasses.
I don't smoke it. I don't shoot it. So like, I couldn't do anything with tar. Like, we got it, and he pulled it out, and I was like, what the fuck is that? He was like, it's tar. And I was like, what the
You trying to play me, bro?
Yeah, I was like, what do you want me to do with this? I literally told him, I was like, I don't want it. Like, I don't know I don't smoke it, and I don't shoot it. Needles in me do not work. Yeah, I don't. He didn't even look like I would want to do it. It's black shit.
It's
like,
ugly, bro.
It doesn't look entertaining.
Ugly.
He was like, all right, whatever. The dude we got it from, he was like, I got something else. Like, what do you have? He's like, I got meth. And I was like, oh, bet. Cool. Let me get that. From that moment, I used meth up until 2 years ago.
And explain to me what happened for you to stop doing meth. That's a pretty dope story. Go on into that one.
Yeah, well, I was using meth like very regularly, just like with my other drug usage. No one knew. I was working 2 jobs, Einstein Bagels and Pizza Hut.
Highly
I was
functioning
running
addict.
a Pizza Hut very, very highly. I'm not going to do something and let it take me out of control. The only thing that does that is psychedelics, and that's why I don't do them in public. Okay. I did them in public plenty of times. Not anymore.
Not anymore. No, that sounds like hell. So take me to the day where you got pulled over, bro.
Oh, so I was in
because that was really the changing day of your life, right?
Yeah, that was the catalyst to the change. I had found out that my girlfriend was pregnant. She was probably 2 months pregnant at this time. It was so scary. First pregnancy ever. I've never.
Me too. I know that feeling.
Never had
Nervous
a kid
as
before.
all hell, dude.
There's a big age gap between the two of us. She's 24 and I'm 33. So, the mindset's a little different.
And so at that point you're 31 and she's 22.
Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah, so 2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago. I knew that I couldn't keep using meth because I was having issues sleeping. I was using it consistently to where like my sleep patterns were off. I would randomly pass out because like I wouldn't sleep as much as I should. So there'd be points where I would just be in the house and I would just fall asleep. There's points where I'd be on the toilet passed out. Yeah. I would just fall asleep on the toilet. I'd wake up like,
on your Elvis shit?
Yeah, I was just waking up like, what, dude?
So you knew something had to change.
Something had to change.
So you
also,
got pulled okay, so
and then also in this, before that, my third OD came when I was with her. I bought a Perk 30 and I didn't know that it was a fentanyl
it was a hot
pill.
One, yeah.
We were in my car wouldn't start. We were stuck at a Sonic. She knew I had the pill, but she didn't know it was fentanyl. She passed out because I was doing deliveries. I snorted half of it and I ate the last quarter of it and I passed out and died. Now, mind you, the car wouldn't start. We were waiting for a tow truck. She woke up from her sleep to me being dead, blue, like in the car seat. All I remember is hearing her scream my name, and she slapped me, and I touched my steering wheel and then grabbed my keys and started the car. The car wouldn't start. Don't know how this happened. You can ask her. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen happen. I felt like I was shocked by electricity. Wow. Like woken, awake. And it's so weird how like the car's broken down, like it wouldn't start. She brought me back to life somehow. And that jolt of life with the electricity that runs through our bodies, I think, is what started the car, personally. Like, it started my body and it started the car.
Sounds kind of hippie-ish, but I kind of buy it.
How else does a car that's been dead? We were there for 2 hours waiting for a tow truck. They never showed up. I didn't do another. No more opiates ever after that.
Meth.
That was the only other time I had screwed up. Meth had never done that to me. Meth never killed me. But it did screw up my sleep schedule. Nobody knew I was on it, but I wasn't eating as much as I should. I was like 145 pounds probably at like 6 foot.
What are you right now, 170?
Like 155, 160.
Okay.
So like I'm using, and then, we're driving through Loveland during COVID with expired tags because like I couldn't even get to it.
Right, no, I remember that. Bro,
motherfucker decided like you're not supposed to be pulling people over. This dude decides to pull me over. And now, mind you, we have a bunch of weed in the car, like a bunch of bowls, pipes, weed, pens, everything like you shouldn't have in the car.
How much speed you have on you?
I had probably about 2 grams, like one of those pill containers, like those travel pill containers.
Yeah.
It was in my pocket. He pulled me over, and immediately I was like, can I grab this container, and can I get rid of it? No. He turns lights on. I didn't even see him behind me. Right. I don't know where he came from. He pulled me over, and like they searched the entire car, found all the weed, and he was like, do you have anything on you? And I was like, yeah. And he was like shocked that I was like saying yes, but I just pulled it out of my pocket and handed it to him. The cops were like, what's this? And I was like, meth. And they're like, meth? And I was like, yeah. They're like, you don't look like you used meth. And I was like, yeah, well, I'm high right now. And they're like, you're what? And I was like, yeah. So they spent like 20 minutes asking me questions of how I use, why I don't look high, how I keep it like under wraps, and like why, do I not smoke it, do I not shoot it, like all this kind of stuff. They asked me a bunch of questions. They just took it and gave me a ticket because it's a misdemeanor charge in Denver area. They left it all.
Wow.
They said just don't keep it, don't have that in your car next time.
So you ended up you just caught just a possession charge, right?
It was just a misdemeanor possession charge. What is messed up though is I missed my court case because I thought it was the day after it was supposed to be. So I checked the ticket, the court paper. I checked it the day after the court date happened.
Oh, crap.
So then I requested another court date and they gave it to me, but they were already mad at me for missing my court date. So I went in there and they wanted to put me in jail.
You're like, jail what? Over a misdemeanor?
Yeah.
What the hell?
I'm gonna talk to the DA and they were like, look, we'll do like a year's probation. You have to do like XYZ. You got to do community service, drug classes, and take piss tests once a month. Mandatory, the random piss test you have to call. So I was like, all right. So I did the mandatory piss tests, stopped using because, it just wasn't going to work.
And your kid was coming?
That's the major thing. Like, I could have avoided all this and just taken the misdemeanor charge on my record. They were like, we can just leave the charge on your record, or you can have it wiped off by doing all this work. And I was like, wipe it off my record. Like, let me just do this little bit of work, whatever. And then I knew I was having a kid, and I was like, dude, that's my main goal here. I can't...
Your kid's cute as hell, too, though.
Thank you. I can't be a good role model for my son being a drug addict.
Damn right.
You know, my cannabis usage is very small. I mostly do edibles and try to keep it so there's no smoke in my house because he's a baby. If I'm going to smoke, I try to take it out of the house. Just the aspect of my son makes it so much easier to make that decision.
Bro,
without him, I would still be using, absolutely.
I cannot agree with you more, dude. Those boys deserve the best of. You know,
Yeah.
I have two boys.
Right.
Like, you know, those boys have played a crucial role in my recovery, bro. And what's so amazing, dude? Like you tell this story of like going back and forth on drugs, but once you cleaned up, bro, it was like that was.
Haven't looked back.
Me too. Before my wife had gotten pregnant, I'd been getting my shit together for the longest time, but it was still kind of difficult. But the second when she got pregnant with my boys, bro, it was easy to get clean. I look at those boys as like the biggest godsend. They took away the cravings, the urges, everything. So it's beautiful. I can relate to that. Where did kratom come into this, and how did kratom play into your recovery?
I first moved out here in 2018. I tried it once, but the place I went didn't give me much knowledge. They just sold it to me and said, "Here you go. Put it in hot water."
It's much more complex.
Yeah, it's so much deeper than that. And like, it didn't taste good. I didn't like it. I didn't understand it fully. So I stopped. I tried it once. I didn't like it. I was like, no. And that's when I got hooked on meth because that worked better and it was easier. I could just eat that. It was cool.
I know how to use that.
Yeah.
Nobody has to explain that one to me.
Exactly. No one explained that. Me and my girl lived in Denver when we had the baby, and I was already clean. I was still having urges, and I was still around the people that I could get it from. I was like, I need to get the fuck out of Denver because one, it was too busy, too many people. So I left Denver, moved out here. As soon as we came out here, I was like, look, I need something. And she was like, what do you mean? And I was like, I need something. I'm having urges. I need something. And the best thing you can do if you're an addict is telling yourself.
That's real.
That's all you got to do. Telling yourself. If you feel like you have an urge, go tell someone you care about that you feel like you have an urge. Make sure they stay with you.
Just hit up one of us. We're all
Anybody,
on our Facebook.
a friend, someone. It doesn't have to be a sponsor. Just anybody.
Exactly.
Just telling yourself. It's the best tool I can tell anybody.
I agree.
So did she get you to
She was like, let's look shit up. So we looked up kratom, and I found you with
That's when you met your boy Evan.
Yeah, we hit it off. We talked for what, like an hour and a half that day.
I'm a chatterbox. He's a chatterbox, bro. It's
My girl sitting in the car. She was like, dude, will you
Where
hurry
the hell
up?
is this dude at? Exactly.
So after you tried it, then did you finally feel its effect?
Yeah, I found my own way of using it. People kept telling me to like mix it in water and just drink it straight, like just the actual plant matter. But I found like a straining method. I used something called an AeroPress, which is for coffee. Instead of a French press, it's like a plastic one that goes on top. I put my dose in the glass, I boil water, pour it in the press it out so it's just liquid. It looks like tea. And it has no plant matter left in it. And that's how I take my kratom. I do like large doses, like much larger than recommended. So.
Well, especially when you do it that way in particular, you lose a little bit of it. So you
exactly.
Have to do
it doesn't have as much potency when you don't eat the plant matter.
So how do you feel kratom has played in your recovery?
The only reason that we as human beings use drugs in the first place was to replace those receptors that are lacking in our brain. Even as kids, we're born lacking these things. It's something that happened in our birth that made our brain lacking. There's a way to holistically repair your brain.
Well said.
But it's a long process that takes a lot of time and effort with some things that people aren't willing to take, like certain herbs and certain holistic things that most people don't believe in. If you don't believe in it, it's not going to work. For me, it comes down to like kratom provides relief from that, what I like to call the monkey in my brain, or the brain itself that consistently likes to tell me that I need something, that I'm lacking something, that, oh, you need to have this in your brain, oh, you're craving this.
Scratches that itch.
Yeah, it takes that monkey and sates him, makes him happy.
I couldn't agree more. Early on in my recovery, I would definitely take the kratom to scratch that itch, kill that urge.
And like, also,
and now I'm at the point, bro, where I just take it because I like the nice boost to get throughout the day. And I don't think anything's wrong with that either.
Like, I don't do coffee anymore. Like, I used to drink coffee every single day because that is another drug. It's another stimulant. The effects that coffee have on your brain are very similar to cocaine. It affects the same receptors that cocaine recepts.
Like good old Colombian marching powder.
When you think about it, like, anything can be a drug. Sugar is a fucking drug, man.
Sex,
anything,
food,
buying stuff, like money, anything is a drug. Anything gives you the increase in receptor production. Kratom does it in a safe manner. I've never felt addicted to it. I've never felt like any other way other than happy on it. And even off of it, I don't feel an urge to go need it again.
Bro, I love the way you're breaking this down. Yes, absolutely.
Like,
but you have to use
like
it in moderation as well,
yes.
too, yes? How would you advise somebody who's going into kratom? I mean,
with anything, I use medical cannabis too. Like, with anything, moderation is key. When you don't moderate what you intake, you're overloading your brain on that one thing, no matter what it is. Once that thing is gone, your brain is lacking now. So think of it as like your receptors as like a balloon. When you fill it with something, it expands. It's real full of air. But then when you lose that thing, it shrinks back down to a balloon with no air in it. And then that's why your brain is telling you, I'm in pain, everything hurts, everything sucks. Because now your happy receptors like all shriveled up and lacking everything that you need, when a normal person is just like a nice, healthy shape. Consistently. It doesn't really go, like, they get stressed, it'll inflame, or they get sad, it'll depress a little bit. But like for people like us, it just fucking closes up, basically.
From what I understand about, just the way that the brain works, I think of it as like there's people, when you take certain substances, especially like hard drugs, stuff like that, it pushes those receptors way past the happiness even regular people feel.
It overfills
but then
it.
when it's gone, it goes the other way.
Yep.
You know, it completely goes the other way after it. And so it's important to recognize what you're using, and especially like with kratom, why I feel like it's okay is because you can do positive things like exercising, living a fulfilled life that will increase those receptors, and you can use kratom as like a ballast to get yourself to that point instead of just using something that's going to rock you back and forth.
It's definitely
kratom can help guide you into that
definitely
effort
like a
to
catalyst.
better yourself and to better your brain.
Pete, bro, I wish I could talk to you the rest of the day, bro. Good talking to you,
I
man.
enjoyed that conversation.
Yeah,
I wish
man.
we had more time, and I'm sure at some point this conversation will continue.
Please feel free to like, subscribe, share. Tell your
click that
friends.
button.
Yeah, exactly. Show some love in the comments too.
If there's any questions, general questions that you would want us to be asking guests, maybe not him in specific because we might not know who's coming on next, drop them in the comments. Let us know what you want to hear, stories that you want to hear, anecdotes, all that stuff. Share
Questions.
So we can get to it.
Ooh, anecdotes. Ooh, look at me. I'm Ivan. I know big words.
Oh, look at me. I'm Evan. I dropped out of college. High school. I'm sorry.
Oh, look at me. I'm Ivan. I'm about to get punched in the face.
Oh, look at me. I'm Evan. I don't know what to get myself into.
Called the fuck around and find out.
Exactly. Well, this has been the Kill the Stigma podcast. I love you guys all. Pete, thanks for coming on, brother.
Of course, man. Anytime.
And, let's get it going, man. Everybody have a safe day.
Peace.
Bye.